I'm currently installing sound in this Proto 2000 Norfolk and Western Y3A. This was one of the engines that Pennsylvania Railroad bought. As you can see, it is lettered for Pennsylvania. And yeah, I'm currently installing sound. This thing originally came DCC ready, and manufacturers like Pro 2000 and Bachmann would do this kind of annoying thing where basically their DCC sound equipped engines would have speaker holes in their, in their tender frame, but their DCC ready versions would have no speaker holes, and that would make installing DCC sound of your own afterwards rather difficult, because oftentimes their tenders would be die-cast frames. Now, if you ask me, it'd be just easier for them to just use, one type of tooling and install and have tender frames that all had sound holes or speaker holes. But they went through the extra effort of, creating two different toolings for two different tender chassis. So in any case, if you buy a DCC ready engine from those two manufacturers, and probably many others as well, there won't be a place for a speaker. And so you have to end up installing a speaker of your own. And in this case, I have, I'm just going to put it through the plastic cold load because I don't feel like drilling holes through die cast. As I said, this tender frame is die cast. So yeah. And one trick I found really interesting is, I tested a whole bunch of speaker sizes. I'm just going to end up using the regular, 30 millimeter 8 ohm speaker, circular speaker, and just because, they're very common and they're cheap. And anyways, one trick I figured I'd share with you guys is for drilling speaker holes. So, you obviously don't want, the common fear is to, drill holes that are easily noticeable and seen by the naked eye on top of the engine. And so one trick I've learned is basically you drill a bunch of small holes, which, obviously smaller holes are easier to conceal. I chose a drill bit size so that the holes are roughly the same size as the coal, pieces themselves. Which was very convenient. As you can see, these holes are very small and they're comparable to the sizes of the coal. So the general rule of thumb is that you want holes that are, at least, or at maximum the size of the coal. It's either this size or smaller. So I chose a size that was slightly smaller than the coal load, and that's fine. And so the really interesting trick, and the trick that's very important, is to drill holes that go angular. So this coal load's angled like this, and you want basically holes that go from the cab inwards, angled, not directly down. So you also don't want to go this way or this way, because if it goes in like this direction or this direction, then in that particular direction you can see the holes. But because it's from the front, you very rarely see coal loads from the front. So in this case, you'll see that the holes are basically invisible from the top, but only if you angle it from the front will you see the holes. And keep in mind, the back will be, darkness because the tender inside is dark, so it'll look like that. So it'd be very hard to see those speaker holes unless if you actively look for them. And again, from any other angle, it's invisible. Only from the front will you sort of be able to see them. And as I said, it's going to be dark inside, so it actually look basically invisible. And it blends right into the coal from any sort of distance. Now to contrast this, I can actually bring up a model over here that has holes that are drilled directly on top, and as you can see here, it's very noticeable. And also these holes are big, so this is a very, in my opinion, a poorly done coal load drill, or drilling holes for speakers. This is done very poorly. It's big holes and they go directly down. Again, you want to drill them from the side, and you'll be surprised at how effective it is at concealing speaker holes. Anyways, I'm gonna install this as a speaker. I'm basically going to mount the speaker like this. I grinded away a little bit of material on each side just to get a slightly better fit. And then I'm just going to fill in the rest of the gaps. You see there's a whole bunch of gaps here. I'm going to fill up the rest of the gaps with hot glue. If you want to do a proper job, you could probably 3D print some sort of, speaker enclosure around here. But I'm just going to use hot glue to conceal it. As I said, you definitely need to make sure that there's no gaps between the front of the speaker and the top and the bottom of this. So you want to basically enclose it. So I'm going to basically use hot glue and fill up all those little gaps on the sides and whatnot. And then from there, it is optional, but you can make a speaker enclosure out of styrene that it basically covers on the top of this. But I might do that. This tender is pretty big, and for larger tenders, you might want to do that. But I'll update you later. But yeah, in the meantime, I'm gonna basically just add hot glue to the sides. All right, and now the speaker is completely sealed. As I said, normally speakers are, they seal simply by just having the front be touching, be stuck to the bottom of the tender frame, like, sort of like this. But in this, because it's a flat surface, but in this case, because the coal load, is not very flat, it's very angled and stuff, it's important to seal it. And in this case, I just use hot glue around the sides. And then around here, this was such a big gap to seal with hot glue. I ended up just cutting a piece of styrene, a sheet styrene out into like an arch kind of shape, fitting it in, and then curving it. And then while I have it curved, I heat it up a little bit with a lighter, just to kind of, so it keeps its shape better. And so you can see it's nice and curved right here. And then I just put more hot glue around the sides. Again, the idea is just to seal the speaker to the, the top where the output is. As you can see now, it's dark. It's much harder to see the holes, especially from any sort of distance. It's almost impossible. It blends very well with the coal. And from the top, it's basically invisible. From the front, you could kind of barely see it, but it's still very hard to spot. So anyways, now with the speaker fully, sealed, we could place it inside the tender. And then from there, you can add an optional, speaker enclosure if you want to, or you can just leave it like this. If you leave it like this, the entire tender would act like a speaker enclosure. But it would be recommended, especially on larger tenders like this one, for example, to add a speaker enclosure. And this one, in this particular tender, I'd probably just add a sheet of styrene around here that would kind of fill up this area. But on smaller tenders, it's more of an option, more of an optional kind of thing you'd want to do. But yeah, anyways, that's kind of my trick to create concealed, speakers that are fit on top of coal loads on steam engines. As I said, it is very well concealed. It's very hard to see. So yeah, hopefully this helped out someone. Hopefully this is a good tip, and hopefully you guys will implement it and maybe share it with other people. But yeah, cool little trick I learned, and I figured it'd be nice to share with other people. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.